So with our counterbores done, we're ready to drill the through hole. And what I've done is actually just change the bit. I'm leaving the fence the exact same, I'm leaving the table the same, so that we know that at least we're centered within the board. As far as centering on here, what I did was, while I still had the counterbore bit in there, and I knew the bit itself was centering the wood, what I did was I made a little mark here on the back of my, my little makeshift fence. And that corresponded with the lines that we drew on the table saw. So if I just line it up there, drill a hole, slide it down, line up my marks again, we know that both holes will be exactly centered. Perfect. Okay, so with my bolts installed, the only thing really left to do is to put it all together and see if it's going to work out. Make sure you use a couple of washers, and I just chose some wing nuts, honestly, because they're the cheapest. They're only about 20 cents a piece versus the little plastic knobs, which come out to about $3 a piece. Either one will work just fine, of course, but if you're on a budget, wing nuts are the way to go. So by tightening it up, what's going to happen, again, it's going to expand that slot. Hey, and there you go, not too bad. Now, let's test out the fingers and see how good they work. Okay, so we're ready for our first cut. And what I have is just a small piece of about 3/4 by 3/4 stock here. And again, generally when we're using a featherboard, it's on narrow stock like this. And the problem with narrow stock is it generally wants to bow. And this piece has a very slight bow to it, only maybe a 1/16 or so. But when you set up your featherboard, few things you want to keep in mind. You always want the bow facing outward. You don't want the bow facing in and the piece being curved this way. So with the stock being up against the fence like that, I want to bring in the featherboard. It's important to always make sure the featherboard stops before the blade starts. You don't want to be pushing the wood into the blade. So with it set right about there and it up tight, I want to give it just a slight push in, just to flex those fingers just a little bit. And we're ready to lock it down now. Okay. So, ready to make a first cut. So there you go. A featherboard made from scrap wood in about an hour's worth of time, $1's worth of hardware, and it's a simple project like this that can really save you some headaches. Having your stock tight to the fence, not having to worry about kickback, can not only save some fingers, but can save those expensive hardwoods that you're using to make the projects. So don't overlook a little necessity like this, and it is a necessity. By the way, also, make a couple of them. Keep one at each one of your stations. The table saw, the bandsaw, the router table. If you have one set up at every station, you're more apt to use it if you don't have to walk across the shop and get one from another area. So make a couple of them. They're easy enough and cheap enough to build. So I hope you guys learned something, and make sure you guys go out there and build a couple for yourself. Thanks for watching.